Whoa, is there a draft in here? Or are those just the top 5 wind counterpicks in RTA? Oh, there's actually a draft. Let me close the window. Welcome to the top 5 wind counterpicks in RTA. Number 5 is Triana. How the heck is Triana still here? Dude, people have been picking Triana since like 2018. I'll tell you how. It's because she's a good monster. Triana's passive lets her cut in at the moment of death for an ally. And thanks to the heal and immunity on skill 2, she can often protect them to the point where they are further from death than maybe they were before. Triana's amazing against snipe comps that are trying to do big damage with one skill. And that's the best case scenario for Triana because she'll prevent that damage. So if they could wipe out your unit in one hit, your unit will still be left at full HP. Triana's also really easy to skill up because one of her sisters is fusible. Triana is just brutal on violent. Like, her taking extra turns is actually pretty important so that way she can reduce the skill cooldown time on her passive. Plus, sometimes she's just gonna proc into a clutch little skill 2 to heal up your team and apply immunity when you really need it. Speed HP, but it is crazy to say, but crit damage Triana does have some viability. I know this is weird, and it's supposed to be weird. It's not supposed to be expected. The whole nature of a crit damage Triana is that people don't expect it. So I'm not saying do it, I'm just saying, you know, think about it. For your artifact substats, look for increased recovery on skill 2, and, you know, a little extra accuracy on skill 1 never hurt anybody. Notably, Triana is also awesome on arena defenses. So not only is she a great counterpick in RTA, but she can also save your units there and in Guild War defenses. Number 4, Mephisto the Wind Demon. Honestly, Mephisto better be on this list because the dude is kind of a passive with legs. Just by Mephisto's presence, he will prevent people from reviving. Unless you're the Necro boss, because apparently that crosses a line. I thought it was cool. Mephisto also offers a big HP lead and he can do some damage too, which is great. Folks have even used him in Giants as a source of damage. I really am only half joking when I say that Mephisto's there just for his passive. And usually when people are there just for their passive, we put them on a despair set so that way we can occasionally stun someone. So I wouldn't fault you for putting Mephisto on a set of despair or a set of rage if you're focusing more on a damage build. Speed, crit damage HP is a pretty decent way to go for him. Number 3, Diana the Wind Unicorn. If you're an RTA and you picked a predominantly water comp, God help you, because the Wind Unicorn is coming to deliver divine justice upon you. The justice of John come to us. Diana is known to tear apart water comps. She's also known for going infinite on violent procs, because she can fill up her own attack bar, take a turn, then proc. And then the game looks at that and sees a new opportunity to proc, thus allowing you to go infinite. She also has stun on skill 1, and her passive also offers some attack bar gain. So you can rune her kind of slow, focus on crit damage, and she'll just do her magic. Runing a Diana is kind of an iterative process. When you start, your build might look something like HP crit rate attack, or maybe speed crit rate HP. But later down the line, if you can transition over to a slot 4 crit damage rune and still get that 100% crit rate that Diana demands, that's definitely the way to go. Diana and other units that have a bit of attack bar cycling built into their passive are a little more lax when it comes to speed. Now, that's not to say that she should be slow, but she can function on around 80-ish additional speed instead of the plus 100 that other units might demand. Let's face it, violent is probably the only way to go for Diana. She's one of the few monsters in the game that has the potential to go infinite on violent, and it's absolutely terrible being faced with that, but it's amazing doing it to someone. and I want that for you. I really do. So I think violent is the way to go. Her offset should probably be Will. Just because she's a slow horse, so, you know, at the start of the game, you don't want it to be that easy for people to put a defense break on her and just annihilate her before she gets a turn. Diana really loves additional damage in the substats. However you can find it is great. Any additionals you got, she'll take them. Number 2, Gyo, the Wind Onyuji. So before we talk about Gyo's passive, let me just shout out her skill 2. It's called Karma, and it has a strip on it, and it will apply a debuff called Suppression. If a unit uses a skill with a cooldown time while that's applied, they'll lose 50% of their health, and the cooldown time of that skill will get extended past its maximum. Now, where this gets lit is because of her passive. As your opponent uses skills with cooldown times, she'll be gaining attack bar in the background and reducing the cooldown time of that skill too. So you're going to be gaining more turns than you know what to do with, and you'll also be applying more suppression than you know what to do with. Gyo is great against monsters that have baked in turns like Ciara, or monsters that can gain and absorb attack bar like Oliver. Now, Gyo gets a lot of attack bar just from people using their skills. So you can actually put Gyo on a set of Despair. Since she's more or less going to be cycling enough turns as is, she doesn't super need to be on Violent. And instead, you can get a few clutch little Despair stuns along the way, while people are incidentally fueling your turn taking. You also feel so powerful when you use your skill 1 to strip, defense break, and stun someone. And because she takes so many turns, you're going to have a pretty big sample size, and it's going to start feeling like it's happening pretty often. And because we want as many opportunities as possible to make that situation happen, we can put her on a set of revenge runes too. Just a few honorable mentions, and then we'll get to number 1. Our first honorable mention is Windy the Wind Jack-o'-lantern. Even though Windy is a staple in offenses in Guild Wars, Windy can still work for you in RTA if you see that your opponent's trying to bring a lot of defense break, because his passive makes him immune to that. Our second honorable mention is Carbine, colloquially known as Douglas with a gun. You'd want to pick Carbine into heavy water comps because every time that he gets glanced upon, he gains 100% attack bar. And his skill 2 imposes a chance to glance. He also gains an attack buff, so the clapback is pretty extreme. Our last honorable mention is Thomas, the Wind Lollipop Warrior. Actually, the only Lollipop Warrior. Thomas is the fastest unit in the game when it comes to actual gameplay, and he has the ability to strip and increase cooldown time by 2 turns. So if you really need turn 1 and you see that you need to race your opponent to do so, you could have a clutch little Thomas runed up. So that way he could get on in there and take their immunity and reset their cooldown times. Little rascal. Number 1, it's Leo. Who else could it have been? He caps everybody's speed, and turns out the passive could just stop there. That's good enough. He also has a little bit of attack bar decrease and the potential for an ignore defense torrent. But if you cap everybody's speed to like his, that's going to severely inhibit speed-based damage. And there are quite a few units in the game right now that have speed scaling damage. Or at least a lot of relevant meta monsters like Masha and Miles. And the list grows longer and longer with every passing day. Han, the Wind Indra, etc. You can rune Leo on Violent or Vampire. You really just want to make sure that he's at as close to 0 speed as humanly possible, so that way the cap he puts on people is at its most effective. Violent offers a little bit more damage here and there, and Vampire kind of gives him the chance to solo when it comes down to just him. For his offset, whatever you put him on, even though you have a lot of flexibility, you just want to remember a set of will runes doesn't do anything on Leo because he's guaranteed turn 1. So that means that the first time that somebody interacts with Leo, he'll already be out of will. So that's why usually Nemesis or Revenge are better options, and I currently have my Leo on a fight set. A little weird. I'd prefer the other two, but I'm trying it out. Awesome, that's the list. See y'all next time.